Hello, and welcome back to EPG. I'm, of course, Greg, your host, again, at my mobile studio. If you've been watching this channel, you know that I'm big on historical anniversaries, especially for things that happened in the 20th century. And possibly one of the biggest ones is coming up on Monday, the 27th of January. And that is the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. So I have had the opportunity to travel to Auschwitz, and I'd like to discuss my trip there. So this happened, I think it was around early, kind of mid, late winter, early spring in 2003 when I was in Central Europe. So I went to a couple capitals, Prague, went to Vienna. One of the places that I wanted to stop and be sure to see, especially since I studied history, was Auschwitz, which is located in Poland. So I traveled by train from Prague to Krakow, Poland, which is the closest city to Auschwitz, and it was kind of surreal, riding a train to that part of the world. So anyway, I ended up in Krakow, and I walked around Krakow, saw everything that it had to offer. Krakow served as a shooting location for the film Schindler's List. They didn't change a lot of the stuff there. You can still visit Oscar Schindler's factory, at least the outside. And a lot of they still have the ghetto wall there, the spot where they kind of corralled a lot of the Jews from the area into this neighborhood before it was liquidated and taken to various concentration camps, including to Auschwitz. So after about 2 days in Krakow, I got on another train and I went to Auschwitz. And one of the first things that hit me about being there was how big it was, because Auschwitz is not just one camp, it's multiple camps. So I decided to go kind of chronologically. So the first camp I went to was the first one built. And that was, I don't want to say famous, but it's a lot more condensed than the later camps. So it's the famous Arbiet Makfrei sign that is over the top that was stolen a couple of years ago. So you walk in the camp and the barracks are everywhere. And they really kind of keep a lot of the historical things there. One of them was kind of the gallows that they had where they would hang prisoners. So they still have the barbed wire up that was electrified. Warnings were everywhere, even though they weren't electrified when I was there, but just, to kind of keep everything historically accurate. Now, I'd say one of the more surreal parts of being in this part of Auschwitz was I was looking in a guidebook and I was walking around and I stepped into a building that I thought was going to be like the commandant's headquarters, but it was not. And when I looked up from my book, I was in the middle of the gas chamber alone. It was very cold. You could see the scratch marks on the ceiling where people were trying to get air after they dumped in the poison gas. And then on the other side of a doorway, they had a couple ovens set up, which is where the bodies would be baked and then, turned to ash and destroyed. So after that, there are a bunch of other displays around, some museums. I went to the bigger camp, and it was the biggest enclosed area I think I'd ever seen, because there was just fencing that went around, and the main big building that kind of led into the camp was on train tracks because that's how the trains would go in, and they would take full train cars and bring them into the camp, and then close the gates behind them as people were taken out to be exterminated. They would choose which ones could work, which ones couldn't, and then the ones that couldn't were taken to the showers for what they said was delousing. Um, and then that's where they dropped in the poison gas, and a lot of these people, within minutes of arriving at the camp, were dead. And they moved a lot of their bodies into more kind of industrial ovens, not like the first camp, but they had definitely learned by what they were doing. Um, so it was when I first got there, I was able to get up into the kind of main big building there, and I was able to look around and see basically about as far as the eye could see, just row upon row of barracks where people were housed until they were, either worked to death or survived in time for the liberation. So it's a difficult place to visit, and it needs to be visited with respect because it's an important part of our human history to see what we are capable of as far as depriving people of their God-given rights. And I would say that when my time was finished there, they had plaques everywhere talking about the number of people that died and all the languages of the people that were at the camp. So there was Polish, French, German, English. And when I left Auschwitz to go back to Krakow, and then after Krakow, I went to Vienna, I left at night on a train, and I had two compartment mates with me that were Japanese, and they were laughing, having fun, and they were passing around, and they asked me, in very thick English accent or very thick Japanese accents in English, if I wanted, a shot of vodka with them. So we had our drink, and then our train stopped at Auschwitz again, and it was nighttime. And I realized then and there that if there was one place that was haunted on this whole earth, it would be there. So it was a night train. I didn't sleep very well that night. But as I said, I think that it's important for people to see it, to understand what we're capable of as a species. And I think that one of the other parts about it is that some of the camp was destroyed as the Nazis were fleeing. And that's kind of a indictment that even though, they were following orders or whatever, that they knew what they were doing was wrong. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and get out there.